Yes, Spurs fans, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack here, and I'm going to be filling in for Dave for this predicted lineup with our home match in the Premier League against Brentford. In my opinion, this is a must win game for Thomas Frank. We'll see what sort of lineup he goes for in this must win game. For some reason, I have a sneaky feeling I'm going to get a lot of these predictions right because I have complained in the past about not being as good at the predicted lineup sometimes, I think, as Dave is. But something about this predicted lineup today, I'm feeling pretty good about some of the selections that I think Thomas Frank will be doing. And again, it's not as much about what I would prefer Thomas Frank to be picking. It's about what I think he will be picking. It's just trying to make predictions of what sort of lineup he'll be going for. Please smash the like button for me, please. And as always, get into the comments below if you disagree with any of my selections or if you think he might be going with someone else or if you agree, of course, with any of them. But without further ado, let's get this one started. Vicario, obvious choice. I think he'll be returning back after what was a poor mistake against Fulham and an unfortunate reaction from the fans. Personally, people have heard me say this before. I'm not actually as much against booing. I think it just comes with the sport. I think it comes with the pressure and the intensity and just it's one of those noises that you just make when you're frustrated, really. I don't really think it's that deep as people make it out to be. But I am a slightly against the singling out, particularly of Vicario, because it did seem a bit harsh. In my opinion, I think he saved our bacon many a times, both under the previous manager and as well as under this manager. He's put in some amazing performances this season that have actually gotten us some results by hook or by crook. But at the same time, he's also made some absolutely huge mistakes this season as well. So I wonder if it was a combination of that where they have seen him make mistakes this season, but also it's just maybe the nature of football now where fans will jeer and be ironic towards a player when they make such a high profile mistake. But it did seem a bit harsh to be that critical of him, in my opinion. Newcastle, in my recollection, were not that close to scoring against us. They had plenty of moments where they looked like they were about to put in the net, but for some reason they didn't. And Vicario then I think wasn't as busy as we probably expected him to be in that Newcastle game. And let's hope he's not too busy in this one either. But let's go over to fullback. I've gone for Pedro Porro. Pedro struggled, in my opinion, against Newcastle for large parts of the season. I think he struggled defensively. We know that's the case with him. He'll have good games and bad games defensively. But what's been more frustrating, in my opinion, is that I feel like his crossing has not been as consistently dangerous as we know it can be. There have been plenty of times where he's under hit across or over hit across. It's been a bit of both this season. What I will say though is that his long balls over the top, when we are just kind of going long ball, getting it launched type of style, he has been actually quite effective for us in that he does know how to be able to ping them over the top compared to other fullbacks. And there is a chance as well, though, that I could see Jed Spence fill in for this game because we know how much Thomas Frank likes to rotate. It's just that Pedro Porro is one of those guys that just seems to be consistently picked. So for whatever reason, I think he is going to go with Pedro Porro ahead of this one, knowing it's a must win game and knowing that Pedro Porro is pretty reliable to play a lot of games in a row. At fullback, again, a difficult call knowing that Jed Spence is a guy that consistently is rotated into the team. Thomas Frank could end up going with Jed Spence here, but I think that we've seen that Destiny Udogie offers a lot more than Jed Spence going forward. And since I am labeling this as a bit of a must-win game here for Thomas Frank, I wonder if he will go with Destiny Udogie for that reason. We know that Pedro Porro has played a lot of games consistently. He dropped Van de Ven because he said he's just being overplayed. And then also as well, we know that Destiny Udogie is fairly injury prone. So there is definitely a strong chance that Jed Spence could play in this one. And I wouldn't be that surprised. I do feel like I said, though, that since Destiny Udogie offers a bit more going forward, and I think he has that really good relationship with Wilson Odebear if he were to play this game, I feel like Thomas Frank is going to go with Destiny Udogie and then risk it and then potentially use Jed Spence in the Champions League match this coming midweek. Let's go over to left-sided center back. I think Danzo stepped in brilliantly for Van de Ven. He seems to always be able to do that, but you'd imagine that Van de Ven will start this week because he was rested. And Romero, I feel like, and him will have a tough assignment against Igor Thiago. He's big, physical, strong in the air, and he's a lot better on the ball than people might think. And he does actually have, for being such a big guy, a willingness to press. So it's going to be a tough challenge, I think, for Mickey Van de Ven in this game. And I don't think we'll be surprised to see Romero as well start in this game. He absolutely saved our bacon and probably Thomas Franks as well this past midweek against Newcastle. It is genuinely hilarious, I feel like, to see our center backs probably as our top goal scorers this season. It's also a huge concern to see them as our best goal scorers this season. But if we could have a split of Mickey Van de Ven's and Romero's, I actually feel like a whole 11 of them, we'd actually be much higher up in the Premier League if you ask me. And also, don't rule out Paulinho. He's also scored some absolute bangers for us this season. But yeah, just Romero, I hope we don't have to rely on him again to score the goals. But knowing how this season has gone, don't rule it out. Maybe a little cheeky bet on Romero to score in this one. Just one thing that I actually forgot to add that I do have in my notes here is that what's been a bit frustrating this season is that in the build-up play, we know how good Romero is at contributing to our build-up play. He can play those really good line splitting passes, those breaking the line passes that he knows how to, spin across the floor without even having to hit it in the air. And I feel like he will play those passes if they're available, but lots of times there isn't a player there to receive them. So I have been a bit frustrated that Romero's been forced or relegated to have to play it sideways when I really don't think he wants to. If I'm being perfectly honest, just something to note about this season, and probably part of the reason why the build-up play has been a little bit frustrating this year is because those options I don't think are available for him. Let's go over to center defensive mid. I've gone with Paulinho, considering that Bentancur did play midweek, and I think we'll see Paulinho come into the team because we're coming up against very physical, very counter-attacking team in Brentford. I think he could be very useful for breaking up play. Could also be that bit of extra help for the defense and Romero and Van de Ven. And when dealing with these long throws that Brentford are so good at, just having a bit of a no nonsense type of midfielder in the penalty area to just sort of deal with some of that might be a good help. Now, playing alongside Paulinho, I have gone for Bergval because I feel like he had such a strong performance, especially in the second half against Newcastle. Lots of people picked him as one of their best players in that game, and he nearly scored an incredible flick goal. And there were times I feel like in the first half where I wonder if he would have been better off as the deeper lying player because I felt like there were times when we were looking for that guy to be sort of in the half spaces and a number 10 like role to receive the ball. And he's just sometimes not really in the right space. I think when playing as a number 10, I think he's far more comfortable playing a bit deeper, picking up the ball off a center back, picking up the ball off of Paulinho, and then being that really courageous guy to progress it forward. I'm kind of iffy on the selection, but I think Bergval will play just because he had such a strong game. But the reason I'm going to have him play deeper maybe has to do with the fact that a certain Xavi Simons has been all over the journalism and the media when it comes to his lack of playing time. Frank has been asked so many times about lack of playing of Xavi Simons in recent weeks that if he doesn't start him in this game, I think we can officially say for sure that there is trouble brewing for Thomas Frank and Xavi Simons. Really, as much as I agree that Frank should give him more games consistently, I see that's a common complaint among Spurs fans is that he's just not giving him enough games in a row to sort of build up that confidence and that comfort at playing at this really high level, very physical level in the Premier League, but also with new teammates, right? I think it's a bit of a two-way street though as well, where I feel like there have been times when he's been given chances, and I don't think he's necessarily taken them. So for me, it's a bit of a two-way street, if you ask me. There have been times where I feel like he's snatched at chances in and around the penalty area. He's either taken the wrong option with a pass or a shot that maybe should have been a pass instead of a shot, or should have been the other way around, really. And there's been times when his touch, I think, has been off, really. And there's also been some unnecessary flicks and tricks that just haven't actually worked out for him that I think have backfired as well. So Xavi Simons, I think, should play this game because if he doesn't, I'm going to be really worried about him in the coming weeks because there's so many games that are coming up, and you'd imagine with the amount of rest that he's been given, and we're playing at home, and we're dying for more attacking football. He's got to start this game, surely, right? And if he doesn't, real worry signs for the relationship between him and the manager. Kudus, I think, is pretty obvious. He's pretty much been playing no matter what. He did look a little frustrated, though, in I feel like recent games because I think we're just not playing very well. We were maybe not progressing the ball in the way that Kudus would like to. And just the overall play has been pretty boring and hard to watch. And I wonder if Kudus is kind of in a similar boat to us fans when watching us play, even though, of course, he's a guy who can have an impact on it. I have seen some interesting body language from him, to be honest, in the last few games. Johnson could technically play in this game. He has a lot fresher legs, but knowing, like I said, that this could be a must win game for Thomas Frank, I'd be surprised if he went for Johnson because he doesn't seem to pick him that often, really. And Kudus does seem to be his guy. Let's go over to left wing now. I've gone for Wilson Odegaard, but this is also one of the tougher calls here. He's been coming off the bench a lot more in recent games after what was a poor performance against Arsenal. Considering, though, that he has fresher legs and Thomas Frank, I would say, has had nicer things to say about Wilson Odebear than people might have expected this season. There have been times when he's been asked about his winger options, especially on the left, where there's been a lot of rotation. He's name dropped Odebear lots of times, really. And so I think there's a definite chance he might give him a go in this game. He's actually had, I would say, more praise for Wilson Odebear, surprisingly, than someone like a Brennan Johnson, who was our top goal scorer last season. There is, though, a chance that Matisse Tell, I feel like, could play on the left in this game as he came off the bench. Thomas Frank said he is capable of playing off the left, but then there's also a chance that he might go with that two striker option again, where he has used Richarlison and Rendell Colomwani at the same time. So lots of different options off the left. I just feel like he might go to Wilson Odebear because he offers fresh legs, and he did have a very good performance at home against Manchester United, in my opinion. But let's go up top to Richarlison. I feel like this is one where I'm confident that he will go with Richie because he started Colomwani midweek, and he's such a fan of rotation, Thomas Frank, that I think he might go with Richarlison. He was asked about Igor Thiago, the Brentford striker, versus Richarlison, and he said that Richarlison is in form right now, which I think is slightly generous, but he has scored some great goals, to be fair. I just feel like his overall play sometimes been a little bit wanting. For some reason, I feel like he's going to go with Richie this game. He might go with Richie and Colomwani. Don't rule that out. I said that earlier about the left wing option, but for whatever reason, I just have a strong feeling he'll go with Richarlison, knowing that Randall Colomwani played significant minutes against Newcastle in midweek. But there it is, everybody. That's your predicted lineup. Please, again, smash that like button on your way out. Let me know if you disagreed with anything I had to say, disagree with any of the options that I've gone for, that I'm predicting Thomas Frank will choose for his starting lineup. And we'll see you all for the pre-match build-up and as well as for the watch-along. Come on, you Spurs. We got to win this one.